We discuss the rise in domestic violence, especially against women, and provide useful advice on how to get help. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, offering primary, specialty, and urgent care, plus surgery and more. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.
Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. One of the negative outcomes of the COVID-19 crisis has been an increase in domestic violence, especially against women. Joining me is Mr. K. Cooper. He is a sexual assault case manager and crisis manager with AVANZAR. Mr. K, as everyone seems to know you, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Let's talk a little bit about the organization AVANZAR that you work for and that you're the crisis manager for. Tell me what that organization does and why it's so important, particularly in terms of protecting women against violence.
Okay, gladly. I work for AVANZAR, which is formerly known as the Atlantic County Women's Shelter. AVANZAR, the former Atlantic County Women's Shelter, has been established since over 39 years, and it happened out of the socio-political activism where there were 5 founding mothers that decided to be proactive in reference to what they saw that was going on in reference to the abuse and the sexual assault and domestic violence towards women. We then were still called the Atlantic County Women's Shelter because we were focusing on that particular point, on the abuse that was particularly against women. However, in recent years, we have changed our name to AVANZAR, which formerly is known as Moving Forward or Unity, because we are now inclusive. We don't only service or exclude women, but however, we are inclusive to men, children, boys, girls, and the LGBTQIA. And this is an agency in which I'm proud to work for, where I am the case manager and the crisis counselor, Kiri Cooper. However, it's Mr. K, so it's easier for all those that I come in contact with to remember.
Well, thank you for allowing me to call you Mr. K. I'm assuming that you're also seeing an increase in terms of the cases coming into the county. It seems to be rampant throughout the world, actually, as a result of COVID. Are you seeing that increase in your organization?
Unfortunately, yes. I must say within the organization and in the world, there is a great increase. And actually, one of the things that I say and some of my colleagues say is that it's a pandemic within a pandemic. And the reason why we say it's a pandemic within a pandemic, because a lot of those who are being abused, have been abused, are faced to be with their perpetrators or their alleged perpetrators on isolation on a daily basis. So with you being faced with that on a regular, the frustrations of having to be faced with that, the frustrations of the world being shut down at one point, the economic system, and then just things that's going on in society can actually foster and trigger these instances to come about where the abuse will happen, be it domestically, be it verbally, or be it sexually.
And that is very significant because even before the COVID-19 crisis, the data shows that 1 in 3 women have experienced some sort of sexual abuse or domestic violence in their lifetime. And that's not limited to any particular race. This is really across the board, correct?
Correct. It just now has become very predominant in the marginalized communities as recent of these last, I'll just say 2 years of the pandemic.
Wow. And how much of this has to do with the socioeconomic factors?
You actually can say that it's more than half, because what your norm once was is no longer your norm. And then you're trying to find ways of producing that norm, of getting back to that norm, and then being faced with the reality of it that unfortunately it just may not go back to that norm. And now you have to be put into a corner to do things that you weren't accustomed to doing. And now you have to almost like reinvent the wheel, and then not only take care of you, but now have to take care of a family. So that can be an added pressure to a person's life and can cause them to actually have issues within themselves, depression, anxiety. There's a lot of factors that can do that. However, none of those factors warrant domestic violence or sexual assault.
Now, most of the cases, I'm assuming, has to do with an intimate partner, but are you also seeing this type of abuse taking place at a younger age?
Yeah, it does have to do with intimate partner violence once, because that's the main aspect of domestic violence is normally the intimate partner violence. However, sexual assault, that's a different component. And within sexual assault, we actually see it range from a senior base all the way down to a child base. And it's very prevalent in the middle age bracket. I'd say from, let's say, a 17 to, I'll say, about 40 is one of the predominant ones. Whereas though it does happen with the college kids going back to school. And then those who, over this summer decided to say the world's opening back up and travel at their leisure and go out and experience the world again.
Let's talk about people seeking help. I'm assuming that most of the cases are self-referred, right? That the people find the number and refer themselves to get help. Is that what you're seeing, or are you seeing other third parties intervening to try to help those individuals who may be suffering from a domestic violence situation?
One of them has been the self-serve, where we're out in the community and we are advertising. Well, I shouldn't say advertising, but we're being proactive in the community. We're doing teaching, we're educating. So they find us from that way. We just did something for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which was in October, which gave a great result in response from the community. But then there's also the hospitals. The hospitals have a good rapport with us, as well as we do them, where we come in and we service those who have been to the hospital, brought either by themselves, ambulance, or either by the police. And we go from there, where we bring in our team and we conduct along with the hospital what needs to be done in reference to having an exam taken care of. And we also have a good rapport with the sheriffs and the local police stations as well.
And I know that communities like Atlantic City, Pleasantville, where you have a diverse community, you may have different languages. Are you also able to help those individuals who may speak Spanish or another language?
Yes, we are very much. We believe in not excluding, but including. So we do have a diverse group of staff. And in addition to that diverse group of staff, because we don't want to be limited in helping anyone in which may be in need of our services, we do have a third party in which we have, if I'm not mistaken, there's over 30 different languages in which we can actually tap into and have someone to aid us in aiding that person.
Yeah, that's incredible. And certainly, I want to give out, before we take a break, if you could just give out the contact information, someone that seeing this program that wants to get help from a domestic violence situation, what number can they call?
Sure, you can reach AVANZAR 24 hours, 7 days a week at 609-685-5555. 646-6767. That's our hotline in which all of our calls do come through, and there's someone there 24/7 for information and if you need advocacy and help with a situation that you're currently in.
And obviously, this program it's available on YouTube and could be seen anywhere. So, there's also the National Domestic Violence Hotline number, which is a 1-800-799-7233 as well. We're going to take a quick break and want to continue this discussion. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Mr. K. Mr. K. Cooper. He is with AVANZAR. He is a sexual assault case manager and crisis manager. Mr. K, we were talking about the uptick of domestic violence, particularly as a result of COVID-19. We gave out the number for folks to call who need help. But let's talk about the type of help that you do provide. Obviously, when someone is facing a domestic violence situation, safety would be top of mind. So tell me what actions you take when someone approaches you for help.
When we're reached out to via, let's say, the police station or the hospital or a third party period, or just through that individual, one, it is our aim and our goal to make sure that they are somewhere by themselves where they can speak freely without having any complications, or the alleged perpetrator is nowhere around. We take that person's safety and confidentiality very, very, very serious. And once we secure all of that and know that that is good, we start our process of doing what it is to find out the necessary information so that we can start the process of doing an intake and find out what it is or how we may be able to better serve them.
Now, obviously, there are financial constraints that keep a person from wanting to report. There are children that may be involved that kind of leaves that the person that's suffering domestic violence from freely getting help. How do you help in this regard, right? They don't have the financial means to relocate, to leave, or they have children that they want to make sure are protected and that they could stay with them. So what kind of help do you provide in that regard?
In that regard, the financial responsibility would not be up to them. We are a not-for-profit, and we have some wonderful people that decide to contribute, that decide to fund to us, and then we have grants to where we'll be able to assist those people as long as they meet the criteria and they fall into the brackets in which it is we can say that we service them, or within the communities that we say we serve. So to no financial responsibility to those that we serve at all.
Obviously, when you talk about safety and you talk about removing that victim away from that situation, which may mean that they have to leave their home. How do you assist them? I believe you also run a shelter. There are other ways that you could help that individual or that family, that the person may have children, to settle somewhere.
Okay, well, we ourselves, we don't remove them. That's not the part in which we get into. Unfortunately, if they're removed or they're displaced from their home by the police or something of that sort, then we can assist. But it's not our goal to remove anyone from their home and just abruptly do all that. We help you make your conscious decision and present you with options if that's something that you want to do. Because ultimately, if we were to remove someone from their home and that's not what they want to do, they will just go right back to it. So we find out from you if this is something that you want to do, if safety is something that you want, if immediacy is something that you need, and to actually secure your family a future is something that you need. Once those options are conveyed to us by you, then we can intervene, because we do have a shelter. And for years, that's what everyone just attributed us to, as a shelter. However, our shelter is a service that we provide because we are a safe haven as well. And that's the way we like to look at it. So when they make those determination and determining factors that they're ready for that, we go through the criteria. And it does not exclude their children. We have placed, that I know of, and that I can say up to a mother and 5 children before in actual shelter because they needed immediacy to get away. And I'll also say, too, a lot of times we do just attribute domestic violence and sexual assault solely to females. However, again, domestic violence and sexual assault knows no gender, no color, and no creed. So there have been times as well when fathers with their children or just single fathers have been victims of domestic violence or sexual assault and have needed our services. And we have also been able to place them and give them safe haven shelter.
And that's important to mention that, and the attribute, the name change is also that you're not only serving women, but also males as well and children. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about wraparound services, right? Obviously, when a person needs to get sheltered, needs to go live with a family member to avoid a domestic violence situation, they often need those wraparound services to help them financially or otherwise, or secure housing. How do you manage those, and what kind of partnerships do you have as well?
I tell people a lot that sometimes we almost can be a one-stop shop as far as helping around those specific things. And a lot of people are not aware of the services that we have and or the partnerships that we do work with within the county, because we are one of the only domestic violence and sexual assaults in Atlantic County. So within us, we have been given the opportunity to help with housing temporarily, find funding for those who are looking for housing, in getting placement. We've helped with getting placement, security deposits, securing rent for them for the first month and the last month. We also have a displaced homemakers program. We have a program where because sometimes it's not just the those who is being abused that needs help. We also have those who are the actual abuser, which we have a free program for them as well. We can also help you get linked with victims compensation, which is something that is a service that's provided by the county. We also have our own legal liaison that works within the court system, and we also work with the county prosecutor's office. So we can very much be very assisted and helpful around all things in those matters of them being a client, in addition to having therapists, advocates, as well as counselors that can help the entire circle to go around.
And obviously, mental health may be a big issue, particularly, kids and others that are a bit impacted by domestic violence. Is that also a service that you are able to link individuals with?
That is a service that we house within our own self. We have the therapist for the adults, but we also have a program for PALS. PALS is what we call it. It's for our children. It's an art therapy and a music therapy for children that may have been victims of domestic violence. They may have seen their parents experience domestic violence, or they may have been traumatized behind some type of domestic violence and sexual assault. So we do offer that as well for children.
Obviously, there is some folks who are reluctant because of the stigma that this represents on them. What do you tell those individuals that may be hesitant to report being abused because of the stigma that it could bring?
One of the biggest things is just to let it be known, it's always better to be safe than sorry, because you don't want to put it off and you don't want to say, oh, I'll ignore it and I hope he or she gets better, or I hope he or she stops the pattern, because situations like this normally escalate, and you would never want it to escalate to be something traumatic or devastating to your family in reference to something ultimately happened to you and you don't have the wherewithal to bounce back, or ultimately, because domestic violence has been known to be very much traumatic and end in death for some people. So that's something you don't want it to do. You don't want a devastating situation to end up in a death sentence. So it's better for you to speak up now and get some advice or some help than to wait till later.
Perfect advice. We're going to end this segment right now. We're going to continue the discussion. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Mr. K. He is with AVANZAR. And Mr. K, we talked a great deal regarding domestic violence. And one of the things that I meant to do when we ended that last segment was give out the phone number. Let's give out that phone number again. If someone is facing a domestic violence situation, they need to get help. What number should they call?
You can reach us locally at 609-646-6767. And in the event that you cannot reach us via phone and you are text able, or either you may be hearing impaired, we also have a text line that's also available 24/7. And that's 609-569-5437.
All right. And we'll also put out the domestic violence hotline on the screen as well for those who may be outside of Atlanta County. We talked about domestic violence, but you're the sex assault case manager and crisis manager. What's the difference between sex assault and domestic violence? Are they linked together? Is there a difference in terms of the increase of domestic violence? Are they also proportionally at the rise in terms of sexual assault?
They're proportionally at the same rise. There's not much of a major difference because they are both abusive situations and both can include violence. A lot of times sexual assault, however, is just solely primarily predicated on the sexual attack or the sexual act and does not always include violence. However, it can be inclusive of violence and it can get violent. Now, the two of them also do run hand in hand and can become very much intersectional within that. And by that, I mean a domestic violence situation, which is an intimate partner violence, can be between boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife or partner and partner. That also can entail sexual assault, because when you tell that person that you do not want to have any type of sexual contact or you don't want to give consent and they still force you, that is a sexual assault within a domestic violence situation.
Now, I know that over the years, we've heard cases of human trafficking particularly in Atlanta City or in resort communities. Is that still an issue here in South Jersey? It certainly is an issue around the world, but are you seeing those cases here in Atlanta County?
Yes, we during the pandemic, we have seen quite a few of the human trafficking situations. And human trafficking, for those that know, it's normally when you have from children to adults. It's like a modern day slavery where they are in the commercial sex field or forced to be in the commercial sex field and exchange monies for favors against their wills normally, and having someone who is behind what it is that they're doing and that is forcing them to do that.
Let's talk about how you become aware of a victim, for example, that is going through human trafficking, and what kind of services do you provide for those individuals?
We have a program that's called Dream Free, and our Dream Free program is throughout Atlantic County. We can go from here to Hamilton to Vineland, Buena, and to Camden, and we have a team of specialists that are able to recognize those, are out in the street, out in the field, and are trying to find those that may fit what it is that a lot of people say who are the criteria. And a lot of these young ladies may be homeless or living from place to place, and they are exchanging their sexual good or the commercial sex work to be able to fit the bare necessities of everyday life. And a lot of the times you can recognize them because, unfortunately, a lot have fallen into their addiction.
Let's talk a little bit about the age group. I mean, this is across the board. You mentioned children as well. Is that are you seeing those kind of cases in Atlanta County?
That I can speak of personally, I've only seen, I would say, from the teen years to the adult years. I haven't seen anything under teen.
That's good to know. Obviously, in other parts of the world, human trafficking, even of kids, is a major issue.
Yes.
Again, if someone is aware of someone that they suspect is being human trafficked, what should they do? What kind of action should you take?
They could actually alarm the local authorities. They can actually speak to that person and find out just, some key questions, or ask some key questions to find out, are you, this is something that you willingly want to do? Are you in need of anything? Do you have a place to stay? And then based upon their answers, you can actually tell them that there's assistance for you. There's programs that will not judge you, but that will solely help you. And that can be very much preventative from all of this and give you several different services so that you can actually go back to doing what it was or that you considered your normal life.
Mr. K, I'm going to ask you, can you highlight a success story? And I know that this is very difficult work and challenging, but have you been able to, or are you able to highlight a success story?
Yes, we recently had an event that we were privy to go to because our agency got a President's Award because we were one of the elite and prestigious services that were in Atlantic County, and we went up north to it, and it was called the Purple Diamond Awards by the fairy godmother. And we were allowed to take some of the young ladies that we have serviced. And one young lady in particular, I had a conversation with her about her being in her situation of being domestically abused along with her children. And she felt as though that, that was the norm. That was how the person expressed their life. But it got to the point where as though she saw that it was creating a pattern and it was giving something that she did not want to give as the example or the legacy to her daughters. So she actually mustered up enough strength to decide and to make the determination that I want out. We were able to actually help her get out of that situation. Yeah, right now that young lady has a nice, very good job. She's actually putting herself through college in a master's program, and she has a good relationship with her children, and her children now have the understanding that this is the mother that they know and the mother that they want, and she is very proud of the example that she is now giving them.
That is a great highlight. If individuals want to volunteer, want to help, how do they go about that?
There's a couple different ways. If they wanted to volunteer as far as coming in to work and be those volunteer advocates, we have a whole volunteer program, which we do have, and we have those who are the trainers, and they can actually assist you, which is Ms. Donna and Ms. Monique. You can call that 609-646-6767 and let them know that you're interested in volunteering for domestic violence and or sexual assault, and they will go through the process of doing the application and the screening. It's actually something that we offer to the students at Stockton as well.
Well, Mr. K, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. This is great information, and wish you continued success in helping many, many others as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bert.
And thank you once again for joining us here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet. To learn more about protecting our environment, choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by AtlantiCare, offering primary, specialty, and urgent care, plus surgery and more. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world, and South Jersey Gas.